Hello, Cancer. Welcome to your weekly reading here on Dove and Serpent Tarot. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for letting me read for you. If you're watching this reading was meant to find you. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, consider subscribing to the channel, especially if this reading resonates with you. Now, this is a general reading, so try to be open and receptive to whatever may come through during our time together. I am merely the messenger, and I ask you to connect directly with each of these cards and use your own intuition to take you beyond the details that I provide. And remember, Cancer, that the most important part of any tarot reading is you. And we start with the Magician. Wow, this is quite nice. This is your ability to construct your reality. I think you're a very adaptable person. I think sometimes you are this adaptable person to your own detriment. Just because you can adapt to everything doesn't mean you should. Okay? Just because you could find a way to get along in any situation doesn't mean you need to stay there. The Magician is a card, an energy that can take the circumstances of life as we find them. This is what I got. I can work with it. I can try to make it the best I could possibly make it. There's a limit to what it could become, right? You can't make, you can't make something just absolutely extraordinary out of sort of low quality ingredients, And so this card is really about doing the very best with what we have, taking life as it comes, taking the circumstances in which we find ourselves, the conditions of life, the materials, the resources we have, and doing our very best, making it as optimal, as successful as it can be. That's us adapting to what we've got. I'm changing, internal changes, in order to sort of use what is here. The other side of the Magician card, though, is your ability to change your environment. You don't like these ingredients, get new ingredients, get better ingredients. You don't like the conditions, get better conditions. And I think a real magician is an energy that is able to both influence the environment, try to optimize the conditions of your life, and then optimize the external conditions, and then optimize the internal conditions too. So there's a flow, right? If we have these very high aspirations and high talent and all this drive and all this creative energy, but we have very poor ingredients and very less than ideal circumstances, we're not really, there's not a flow there, right? If we have these just absolutely perfect conditions in the environment and the best resources and the best ingredients, but I don't know how to cook, there's not a flow there, So we want the very best ingredients, and we want to be able to grow and adapt and change internally so that we can match the environment that we're in. That's adaptability, right? And I think the best magician is one that can do both, can optimize the conditions and then can optimize the internal state so that we could take perfect advantage of the conditions in which we find ourselves, and we can create our reality. We can create the experience of life that we want, being the relationship between external and internal, right? Let's put this card into a little bit of context. This is a very complex card. It needs some other cards around it. There are your conditions. 7 of Pentacles. You've got a Queen of Wands inside of you, underneath you. You got an Ace of Wands behind you, a 3 of Wands above you, and wow, look at that fire. Holy smokes, a Princess of Wands in front of you. That's crazy. I wonder if this is really you saying, you know what, I'm done adapting to the circumstances. I'm done accepting the givens as givens, that the 7 of Pentacles just happens to be my lot in life, and that's what I've got to adapt to. I feel like all this fire around you is sort of you like releasing this fireball energy 360 degrees around you, and it's just sort of, it's like a blast. It's changing your environment. I think this is like an overnight change. I really do. it feels like a prophecy to me that you've been in this particular place for a long time, maybe literally, but maybe figuratively. You've been here adapting to here. And now I feel like your energy is expanding out. There's this fire of intentionality. There's this fire of creation, of change. The fire of change. And sometimes change is destruction and construction. It's a tearing down and a building up. It's change. It's all over the place, right? The fire itself is rather neutral. It depends on the magician, how you are wielding that creative fire, that consciousness, that awareness, this creative force and fire. It's neutral. It's not good or bad. It's how we use it, right? That's extraordinary. If there is anything you would like me to pray over or meditate upon or send positive energy toward, please let me know. We'll finish up with the Path of the Serpent here, and then we'll get into these cards. Individually, we have a 10 of Cups. As your general energy, we have a 9 of Wands in the environment, a Fool as sort of the obstacle, and a Libra energy as a final outcome here. It's a Knight of Swords. This might be very much a sort of a new way of experiencing the world. You know, it's a way that it's the only Swords card we have. I think it's a new way of thinking. Yeah, a new way of thinking. Let's select our mystery card, bonus card, a confirmation card. This is a random card from the Smith-Waite Tarot. This is the factor infinite and unknown, and we're going to set it down. Well, let's just take the top one right there with our big red ant. We're not looking at that card until the end, all right? It will tie everything together, and it will give us the confirmation that we need. If you have a prediction for that card, please put it in the comments. Let's take a look around the room. As far as our major arcana energy goes, you got the best of the bunch. You got the magician and the fool. You've got the raw talent, and you've got the skills. So this is telling me that you are right now a big fish in a little pond. Okay? You've got talent and you've got skill, but you're not in the right environment to grow that into something, right? That it's sort of like you keep yourself in this little tiny fishbowl, and you're not going to be able to grow as big as you could grow otherwise. Does that make sense? And that's what our 7 of Pentacles is. It's something that really had the potential to grow and become a mighty oak tree, but it sort of got stunted. It's something, it's the environment is too small. The conditions are not correct for that kind of energy. And the obstacle being the Fool, really that's the obstacle of our talent being wasted, of us living a life that is where we don't live up to our potential, where we have this gift, you have this talent, and nothing becomes of it. All right? And I think that the air energy here with the Swords cards, our Knight of Swords, is you making some decisions here that are really you're changing your life overnight. Okay? And in that case, the fire energy really is this kind of a fire energy that's sort of enclosing upon you. See, fire is neutral, right? And if we let it sort of enclose on us like this, we're going to be crushed. We're going to be limited. Our aspirations are going to just sort of wither away, and we're going to fall very short of what we're capable of achieving. However, if the magician can learn to control the environment, then I think that we're using this fire to our benefit, and we are expanding the circle. The fire is either going to contract or it's going to expand, and I think that this is, I really feel like it's your time to expand this fire circle. You know what I mean? And in some ways, it's showing me that it's time for you to really get mad and stop putting up with this, right? Stop adapting to things that you should not be adapting to. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so I feel like you're breaking the bonds. It's like this fireball, this burst of energy just spreads out in every direction, ripples out from you, and is really extraordinary. So we have the talent and the skill here, the potential. We've got, also with the Fool energy, it's kind of a fear. And that fear is to really sort of be out on. It's the fear of freedom, really. It's the fear or the paradox of choice. It's the paradox of freedom because we don't have the comfort of that small fishbowl anymore, that comfortable pond. That it's kind of getting too small for us, but it's comfortable. So the Fool is really a wide open space. The Fool is kind of saying the sky is the limit. We need courage to go and explore this wide open landscape to figure out what conditions are going to be better suited to our growth. It's going to take some courage. And that's where we get a lot of the fire energy too. A lot of this is showing that you're really going to have to muster your courage and experiment and really put yourself into situations that maybe feel uncomfortable, maybe you're not so familiar with. You got to take some risks here. Okay. We got the water energy here with your 10 of Cups, the potential that you feel for a life that is full, a life where you're able to expand and explore your potential and live up to your potential and fulfill your dreams and aspirations and become who you are truly meant to become. That's what you feel as your general energy, this drive, right? And then, we got such good energy here. A lot of fire, some water. We got a little bit of air and a little bit of earth. The earth energy here is what needs to be changed. And I feel like it's an environment that you're adapting to. It's a fishbowl that is too small. The Fool is kind of getting out of the fishbowl and getting to the wide open ocean. It's going to be a big adjustment. It's going to be a little scary, right? That's why the Magician has to adapt internally to now these conditions outside. The conditions in the ocean are a lot different than the conditions in the fishbowl. Underneath everything, we've got the Queen of Wands, and I feel that this is a card that looks at the past, for one thing. I think you're looking at the past and you're understanding those moments in time where you asserted yourself and how good that felt. And also those times where you sort of, you put yourself last, where you sort of put yourself down. You deprioritized yourself, your talent and skill and your life and your needs, and you adapted to a situation that you knew at the time probably you didn't really want to adapt to, but you let your will sort of be usurped by somebody else or something else or the conditions that we're in, right? So this is a card really that needs to stand up and understand, stand under, I guess, this idea that you are powerful enough, capable enough, confident enough, assertive enough to take charge of your life and change your life. I feel like this is literally an overnight type of change. It's not a slow emerging from the fishbowl. It's kind of saying, I'm getting out of here tonight. We're doing it tonight. It's like a prison break, And, this is kind of like, this is that moment. All right. The Queen of Wands is a card that has a sense of purpose, that sort of knows who they are and is able to advocate for that awareness. So you're advocating for yourself. Yeah. And this needs to come up to the surface. We need to start advocating for ourselves. The Ace of Wands in the background. Behind you is a real sort of spiritual awareness. There is this fire of, and that's the willpower. This is the will itself, and how we must once again. I think that it's back here because you know what it feels like to be in charge of your life. Somewhere along the way we got stuck in this fishbowl, and we let ourselves sort of linger here, and we grew as much as we could, and now we're stuck right up against the edges of the glass. We need to grab this wand again. It's like the Magician has lost the magic wand. Well, this is that magic wand of spiritual awareness, right? This is that enlightened consciousness, and we don't ever lose enlightenment, right? We build upon it, and we can develop it, and it can grow. Sometimes it can get a little dusty, all right? If we drop our wand in the dirt, and just over the years it gets sort of covered up with an accumulation of dust, well, Might take a minute to find it again, but once we do, right back in the saddle. Yeah. I think this is also you having an aspiration. I think you know what you're capable of in life. And I feel like you know what you should be doing. Like you know what your talent is. You know what your skills are. And so I wonder if you have already a pretty vivid picture of what kind of life you want to live. Like who you want to be, like what your thing is, what your calling is, you know? And I feel like we need to get back to that. You know, I feel like we need to get fired up by this. Now, the Three of Wands at the top of the path of the dove is the card of virtue. Doing the right thing even when the right thing is difficult. I think that maybe the reason why you're in this fishbowl now is because you did the right thing. Maybe it's, for instance, your parents needed your help. You had a sick parent, and so you moved back home and you decided to put your kind of life on hold. We put the wand down for a second. And you did the right thing, and you were there where you felt you needed to be. And I feel like we just sort of stayed. And, we adapted to that situation, and that became our life. Well, there's a point in time where doing the right thing does not mean doing the same thing that you've been doing. Maybe doing the right thing now is to get up and say, I'm changing the conditions of my life. I'm changing the environment that I live in. I'm changing my surroundings. I'm changing the conditions in which I find myself at this moment. And of course, we can wake up at any moment and say, I'm changing some things, you know. But I feel like this card sort of explains an obligation or a reason why you are in this fishbowl sort of situation, because you did the right thing. I don't know if you temporarily, or what should have been a temporary thing, deprioritized your own aspirations and dreams in order to do what you thought was the right thing for someone else or in a different place. Does that make sense? And so I feel that this is still something that is kind of, it's lingering above you. It's still up there at the top of your mind, and you're still like, well, yeah, I mean, I want to change my life. I know that I could expand my life and do bigger and better things and go out there and fulfill my potential, but I still feel like I'm kind of under this obligation. Okay? And that's something you're going to have to sort of deal with that, because this is something hanging over your head that's not allowing you to get out of the fishbowl. And maybe this is somebody in your life. I don't have really an indication of who that might be. But you know what? We do have our 3 court cards, so I do feel like maybe it's a family thing. That's something, there's some kind of a heavy obligation. It's almost like somebody is kind of holding something over your head, or even this feeling of guilt that is kind of keeping you here, where you have this impulse, and you know that it's kind of, this situation's kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The walls are closing in on you. But there is still this thing lingering above you, making you feel obligated to stay where you are. Yeah. It could be a relationship, it could be a family thing, it could be a work thing, right? And it may not be a particular person saying, hey, you promised you'd be here forever, now you got to stay here forever, you know. It could just be a sense of obligation that we have, a feeling as if I can't leave because I'm going to be, hurting people, upsetting people, or I'm going to be breaking a promise or something like this, right? The Princess of Wands is willing to take the risk. The Princess of Wands is out here plotting and scheming and, always, this is the card like that always tries to make the prison break. This is someone that cannot really be controlled, and it's just no matter what, you let them out, they're just going to go straight for the wall, and they're going to keep climbing the wall and trying to get out, This is that fish that won't stop jumping out of the fishbowl, This is the cat that won't stop making a dash through the door. When you open your front door, we have cats that do that. Every time we open the front door, the door to the garage, this cat's like 16 years old, right? This cat will dart outside every time. That's, to me, that's this spunky sort of vibrant vitality of a Princess of Wands. Doesn't matter how old you are, right? It's that feeling like no matter what, every chance I get, zoom. I think we need that. And I think that we have to do things quickly and even rather impulsively. We have to take some risks. We're not being reckless, though. That's the difference. And I think it's important that we have our Knight of Swords in that position, because that kind of shows the calculated risk. This is air and fire, okay? So it's bringing a little bit of the air element, a little bit of thought, a little bit of calculation into our risk-taking. So it's a calculated risk and not a recklessness. But it's also a very bold energy. It's a brave energy, and that bravery is sometimes just born of ignorance. That I can be brave if I have no conception of what the risks and the consequences are. You know what I mean? This is the way, again, like a child that can, a child that just does risky things because they have no concept of what the bad stuff is that can happen. You know, like a kid that's just jumping off of the swing set or whatever. But they don't know really what it's going to be like yet. They don't know the consequences, and so it's sometimes easier to be brave when we're not thinking about everything that can go wrong, and we're not inhibiting ourselves. If we just remain a little bit foolish and ignorant, it's very easy to be brave. But I think we add in a little bit of this thoughtfulness and this ability to sort of see the conclusion and the consequences of things with a little bit of fool energy added in. And I think it really makes for a perfect recipe of calculated risk. You know, where we're being brave, we're trying not to worry about everything that can go wrong, and we're just going to leap. We're just going to jump, you know, because I feel that you don't have much of a choice right now, you know. You always have choice, but it feels as if the walls are closing in on you. And this Princess of Wands has to do the sort of risky thing, has to do the potentially scary thing, has to be brave, has to be bold. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. By the way, smash the like button, subscribe. It really supports me, and I appreciate that. Your Ten of Cups over here is your general energy, a feeling of my life could be so full. Like imagine life in the open ocean where I can grow as big as I want to grow, and I can do all the things I want to do, and there's no limit. That there's nothing surrounding me and squeezing me, and that I'm not, you know, I can swim freely, and whatever that means. You know, when you're in this really small fishbowl, you can't really move very well. You can't do any of the things that you really want to do. So it's kind of like your general energy knows that there's a better life out there, knows that there is a life of fulfillment and satisfaction and a depth, right? Not the shallow fishbowl. We know that there is a depth to life. The oceans are infinitely deep, you know? And I think that this is that realization. This is that awareness in you that you know that we're, you know, that we're capable of so much more. If we only had the right conditions, you know, if the soil were better, then I could thrive more. I could grow to be a stronger tree. And again, with that magician energy, knowing what kind of tree we could become motivates us to then try to create the best conditions possible. Now, it's never going to be perfect, okay? But the magician is sort of it's that magic ability that we have to try to be in harmony with the environment in the best possible way, right? That, again, if you have these less than ideal conditions, you're not going to be able to grow into who you are meant to grow into. So the magician then has an obligation to try to optimize the environment, try to change the conditions to a better set of conditions, find better soil for yourself. And then you have an obligation to, well, take advantage of that soil and live up to your potential, right? To grow as big as that soil will allow you. It's kind of like planting a pot in a small pot. It's going to be a very small plant. Give it a bigger pot, it's going to be a bigger plant. You give it a whole field, right, of just open earth, and it could be, who knows, you know, it could be 1,000 feet tall, giant redwood tree or something. You never know. In the environment, we have a Nine of Wands, and that is your ability to say no and mean it. This is your willpower. If this is your will, we have willpower. This is strength in terms of your environment and your relationships. It's sort of having this resolution and not letting anybody sort of push you into acquiescing and saying, oh, okay, you're right. No, we're standing up for ourselves. We have backbone, and no one's going to push us over. And sometimes you have to be firm in your relationships, firm with the environment around you. And you have to say, this is the earth and I'm the shovel. And I'm going to create the kind of environment, the kind of landscape that I need so that I can thrive. Okay? This is you using your will, using the power of your will to kind of, build a better environment for yourself. Build a better life within which you can grow to become what you're meant to become. And so this is standing up to people. This is having a firm willpower and a firm resolution that we make a decision, and no matter what happens, what people say to us, we're not budging from that position. We've taken an oath, and nothing can push us off of that path. Nothing can lead us to breaking that oath that we've made to ourselves, to our higher selves, right? Of course, we've got our Fool energy in the sort of obstacle. There's a fear of freedom in a lot of us, right? We're afraid of the wide open spaces. We're afraid that we'll create these more ideal circumstances, but then that other side of the magician, I won't really live up to it. You'll be given this golden opportunity, and what if I kind of fall short? What if I just what if I don't do it? What if I don't take advantage of that soil? It's like, well, that soil could have been for somebody else. It's like somebody who's given a second chance at life or given a scholarship to a university, and they just sort of screw it off, And it's kind of like, and sometimes we're afraid of that. Sometimes well, I don't want this perfect gift from the universe. I don't want to put in all of this work creating this environment for myself and then just letting it go to waste, And that's always our fear. Whether it's a gift from the universe or whether we create it ourselves, the last thing we want to do is squander it, okay? The Fool is also that card of the natural talent, and it's kind of saying, you have this seed of a mighty oak tree or a giant redwood tree within you, and you just need the right conditions in order to grow that seed. Now, raw talent is nothing without the skill to go with it, and it's the skill really to know what resources you have around you and what kind of environment you're in so that you can fully grow your talent into a successful kind of deeply satisfying life. So it's like, for instance, I don't know, think of somebody like Eminem or something, right? Where they grew up in Detroit, and it was just, they had all this raw talent, right? And we've heard a lot of, a lot of very popular musicians or actors or whatever that sort of talk about how they had this talent, but in the little town where they grew up, there was no opportunity. They weren't going to go anywhere. They weren't going to make anything with it. They had to go, to LA or New York or whatever it might be, where they can actually, it's in the proper location where they can then grow into that, grow into that potential. So it's the same kind of thing. And the magician knows that. The magician is able to recognize, okay, I got all this talent. I got to be able to have the skill to refine that talent so that I can, become the best version of myself. But I also need the right circumstances. If I'm the most talented musician, but I'm just in my room, I'm limited, right? It's closed off. Nothing's going to happen with that. I've got to be able to reach out. I've got to create the right conditions. And now with the internet and all this kind of stuff, there's more opportunity to do that. But we have to be willing to apply ourselves externally. And that's the other side of that magician. It's one thing to just have a skill and a talent and work on it and refine it and you could be the best musician in the world. But you'll never feel satisfied or successful if you don't actually plant yourself somewhere where you can really grow into that and have that interaction with the environment. Does that make sense? And so that's our Fool and our magician. Now, the Libra energy, the Knight of Swords here, I think is our ability to strategize, make decisions, and to develop some kind of a plan. You got to have that You got to have that ability to plan and say, okay, I'm gonna work on my skills. I'm gonna work on my chops. I'm gonna refine my talent. I'm gonna become the very best that I can be. But I also know that to continue doing that, I'm gonna have to expand my environment and put myself in a different place. And I need a bigger pot. I need a bigger fishbowl so that I can continue growing and working on myself. And then eventually there's no fishbowl. We're in the open ocean now. And so we have to realize that we may have to transplant ourselves somewhere that's going to be more conducive to our growth. It's like someone from a small town then going to LA and really using their talent and making a name for themselves, that sort of thing. It's that kind of energy. I don't know if that's exactly what you're doing. But this is our ability to strategize and to have a plan. To see a long-term plan that says, okay, I can only grow so much here. Maybe I'll move over here. I'll be able to grow a little bit more until I finally make it. I break out into the wide open ocean and I can grow infinitely large, And I think that's kind of what we have here is that strategy. It's not just reckless abandon and wild behavior and impulsive behavior with the Princess of Wands. It's more calculated. There's a strategy. There's a plan to it. Okay. Mystery card. What is it? Well, I think it's going to be that mighty oak tree. It's either going to be an 8 of Pentacles or it's going to be the Empress. If you have a prediction, put it in the comments down below. Let's see what we have. The 2 of Swords. Yeah, the 2 of Swords. Like I said a moment ago, it feels like there's no decision. Feels like you've got no choice, but you always have a choice. We could do it or not do it. This could be an overnight change for you, or it could be no change at all. It could be same old, continuing to adapt to the conditions that you find yourself in right now. Okay? The 2 of Swords is a card of a choice, but it's not really a choice. You got to follow your intuition. And that's why there's a little crescent moon at the top of the card, and that's why the figure is blindfolded, right? There's a decision, but it's really not a choice. Okay? You got to follow what your intuition tells you. Follow what your star, your sun tells you. Right? Your true self. Follow what Spirit is telling you in this situation. Okay. We're going to do an extended reading. Stick around. Click on the link in the corner. There's a link down below as well. New readings for Cancer, Tuesdays and Fridays. Be sure to watch both readings. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Leave a comment. Let me know where in the world you're watching from. Yeah. I want you to know that you're the most important part of Dove and Serpent Tarot. I thank you and I love you, and we're all in this together.